Hey everyone, and welcome back. This explainer is brought to you by Forge College. So today we've got a really clear, honestly pretty exciting mission. We are taking that broken, kind of battered prototype from our last deployment lesson, and we're going to refine it into a robust, battle-ready Solana client script. If you've been following along with us, you know we've already laid the groundwork. We defined our interfaces, and we pushed our code out into the wild. And, well, it probably crashed. But you know what? That is exactly what we wanted to happen. And today, we're going to fix it.
Yes. It worked perfectly on my machine until I deployed it. Literally the universal battle cry of developers everywhere, right? Look, if your first guided deployment on Solana felt a bit like a bumpy landing, I want you to know something. That is completely normal. In our inventors workshop here, a failure is never actually a failure. It's just high-fidelity data collection. Every single error log is just the Solana network handing you a breadcrumb trail to build a better, more resilient application. We've collected the data, and now it's time to put it to work.
Okay, let's dive into this by taking a quick look at our curriculum map, just so we know exactly where we stand. We've already crushed step 1, planning, where we mapped out our flows. We moved through step 2, designing interfaces, where we drafted those concrete types. Step 3 was our guided deployment. That's where we gathered our baseline test metrics, and of course, all those lovely error logs. And that brings us right here to step 4, the debugging lab. We are going to patch the holes and really optimize this engine before we move on to step 5, our final capstone assembly. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the crash site. Second, diagnosing telemetry. Third, blueprint revisions. Fourth, wind tunnel optimizations. And finally, final polish. Starting us off with section 1, the crash site, where we deal with that post-deployment mess. And that naturally leads us into section 2, reading the telemetry and diagnosing those exact errors. So to actually fix our script, we first got to review the inputs from our last crash test. It's kind of like looking at pieces of a giant puzzle scattered all over the table. We need to deterministically read those logs to demystify exactly what went wrong on-chain. When you start reading those traces, you're almost always going to run into one of 4 common mechanical failures. First step, account mismatches. Maybe you used the wrong public key order or just forgot a required account entirely. Second, signer or nonce issues. Listen, trying to send a transaction with a stale block hash is basically like trying to use an expired ticket at a subway turnstile. The network is just going to reject you instantly. Third, you might hit compute budget limits if your instructions are too heavy. And fourth, interface deserialization mismatches, which is really just a fancy way of saying your client's data shape doesn't match what the on-chain program actually expects. To keep track of all this chaos, we're going to create something called a debug report. Now, I don't want you to view this as some bureaucratic chore or extra homework. Your debug report is absolutely crucial. It's basically the master blueprint for your final assembly. By actively documenting those failure traces, classifying the root causes, and recording the exact reproduction steps alongside your fixes, you're guaranteeing that when we assemble the final capstone project, it's going to snap together perfectly. No mystery regressions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we transition into solution mode. Welcome to section 3, the blueprint revisions. This is where we grab our tools and start applying defensive, highly targeted fixes directly into our Rust client. Let's look at our first major revision. Think about a failing action, like attempting to build and send a transaction without securing a recent block hash. It seems minor, right? But omitting that single line breaks the entire machine, resulting in a total signature failure. Compare that to the optimized action, explicitly calling rpc.getLatestBlockHash right before you sign the transaction. It is an absolutely essential step to ensure the network recognizes your transaction as fresh and valid. Next up, let's talk about signers. A failing action we see all the time is a transaction signed only by the fee payer, completely missing other required signers. That causes an instant rejection. The optimized approach, explicitly passing an array of every single key pair required for that specific instruction. Making sure all program-required signers are included when you make that signing call is just non-negotiable. Now, this next one is literally one of my absolute favorite architectural fixes. Here is a failing action that drives people crazy. Your script failing instantly the moment it encounters a transient network hiccup. The optimized action is implementing a simple retry wrapper. By using a loop with incremental backoff, say trying 3 times and waiting just a little bit longer between each attempt, you absorb those temporary node issues. It adds immense resilience to your script, and it totally prevents those annoying false positive test failures. All right, moving on to section 4, the wind tunnel. This is all about optimizations and measurement.
Inside the wind tunnel, we want to look at a few specific pragmatic optimizations to really guarantee that long-term deployment reliability. For example, you might adjust your RPC commitment levels so you aren't waiting too long for confirmation when you honestly don't need to. You can batch independent instructions into a single transaction to reduce round trips, or inversely, split them up if you're hitting compute limits. But the absolute most powerful tool here is running rpc.simulate transaction locally. Running a local simulation catches those deserialization and logic errors before you ever commit to sending an on-chain transaction and paying gas fees. It is a massive time and money saver. So, how do we actually know if our time in the wind tunnel paid off? Well, we need a hard quantitative goal. If our broken baseline script from the last lesson was succeeding maybe 70% of the time because of network timeouts and unhandled errors, our new target is 90% or higher. We are looking for a massive, statistically significant improvement in our script's reliability when we run the exact same integration tests.
And this brilliantly illustrates the leap we're looking for. When we rerun that exact same test suite, we want to see a massive visual jump from our previous 70% baseline straight up to our optimized target of 90% or greater. Seeing this metric jump is the ultimate proof that our blueprint revisions, the blockhash fixes, the signer arrays, those retry wrappers, actually translate into real-world performance gains. And that brings us to Section 5, Final Polish and Assembly. This is the part where we carefully package up our polished, super reliable Rust script alongside our detailed debug report. But to consider this module officially complete, we have to pass 3 rigorous verification checkpoints. First, you've got to rerun the originally failing test suite with debug logging enabled and verify that the tests actually pass. Second, compare those quantitative success metrics to ensure you really hit that 90% plus target. And third, you need to manually inspect your new logs to verify that explicit blockhash and signer acquisitions are being recorded properly. If you can confidently check those 3 boxes, your code is solid. As you wrap this process up, I really want you to internalize this guiding principle. Reproducibility trumps cleverness. When you're debugging and optimizing Web3 clients, capturing the exact environment and keeping your commits small and focused is infinitely safer than trying to execute giant, clever, sweeping refactors. Write clear code, make incremental fixes, measure the impact, and document the whole shebang. That, my friends, is how professional, reliable engineering is done. Which leaves us with just one final question. Are you ready for the capstone assembly? Because you now have a robust script that gracefully handles network hiccups and flawlessly constructs transactions. In our next lesson, we're going to combine all these corrected modules into one comprehensive powerhouse script. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, brought to you by Forge College. Be sure to visit Forge College to continue exploring this curriculum and to dive even deeper into the fascinating world of Web3 topics. I'll see you in the capstone.